Let's do this. Okay, my topic is on gun control. I'm obviously not for gun control. The name of my topic for my paper is Excessive Gun Control is Not the Answer. I responded to a author from the Gainesville Sun, and he was very pro-gun control, meaning he wants more control of guns. He went through and listed a bunch of reasons why he thinks that the government should have more control. So his name was Timothy Ray. He was from the Gainesville Sun, and he stated a bunch of reasons why he thought it was actually a wide variety of reasons. He talked about mental health in this country. He talked about basically the school shootings, everything that's happened in Newtown, all the way back to Columbine. He talked about smaller magazine sizes. There's a big push with the pro-gun control crowd to make no more than like 7 rounds per magazine. And if you have an assault weapon, you can have like 30 rounds, or even they make drums that are like 150 rounds. He went into also, it's called straw purchases. And straw purchase is when a person who can legally buy a gun and own a gun buys it and sells it to somebody who can't have it. Basically, they sell it to a bad guy. My position, I'm against gun control. I'm an avid sportsman. I believe in being able to protect yourself. I have 4 children, so it's important for me to be able to protect them if need be. Some of the things that I highlighted were the need for armed guards in schools. I think guns can deter people with guns, and that's my stance on that. I think we do need to focus on mental health, and I guess that's another area that I found some common ground on. I also believe that we should have less government interference, so the government's not telling us, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. I believe it's protected under the Second Amendment of the Constitution, and I think guns lead to peace of mind and protection. They can be a good thing, not always a bad thing. To talk a little bit more about common ground that I had with the author, he talked also about safeties on weapons. I don't know how familiar you guys are with guns. I'm very familiar with guns, but there are a lot of guns that don't have a safety mechanism on it, so it makes it more dangerous for accidental shootings, especially with children. So that's something I agree that gun manufacturers in the United States could make guns with safeties. That's not asking too much. That's a small area that the people who are against gun control can give in. Also, I believe in universal background checks, not necessarily for everyone. Basically, what universal is everyone gets it, but I don't think it should be done for all weapons transactions. I think it should be done with assault weapons, because that seems to be the area where people are shooting schools up with AR-15s, so similar to the M16, is basically the same thing. And those are usually high-capacity magazines. I think the benefits would be for the safeties, less accidental shootings, as I already stated, because there are children that get their hands on weapons, and we see it too frequently in America. And that's not to say that they still couldn't have an accidental discharge of a firearm, but it would definitely help the cause. And with the universal background checks for criminals, or for everyone, for the universal background checks, if you're going to purchase an assault weapon, I think that a universal background check is not asking too much. I didn't want to get too much into mental health. I don't want to say who can and can't buy a gun because there's a lot of veterans coming back that have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a mental health concern. Do we tell them that they can't have weapons? I mean, sometimes they're going to be your #1 person to stop something from happening. But I think my focus on mental health would be more that we implement more mental health programs for people in this country, and not necessarily limit people, but address that individually. I'm going to go into my sources. One source that was really good, it was called Guns in America, What Everyone Needs to Know. It was like literally a whole book. I just kind of skimmed through it. It was like 168 pages. I didn't go through all of it, but there was some good stuff out of there. I actually found that on Google Scholar, and it's from 2014. And I basically used this to show how many Americans use guns in self-defense every year. It's like astronomical figures. In 2010, 80,000 instances of people defending themselves. 30,000 were home invasions. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I would never thought there were that many people using guns to defend themselves every year. But I think that's another reason why it's important that we don't put so much control on the weapons by the federal government. Another source I used was from 2013. and it was called The Bias Against Guns and Why Almost Everything You've Heard About Gun Control is Wrong. And another great source, I basically just use this for background information for people who are in opposition to gun control. That's the first source I forgot to mention, but I did mention it, Google Scholar. This one I actually got off of ProQuest Central, which is on the RMU database. And then the third source, I put the source that I actually rebutted to the letter I sent was to that Timothy Ray, the Gainesville Sun, and it was just basically how did gun sales get out of control. And it wasn't just, that's the title of it, is how did they get out of control, but he talks a lot about why guns are bad. It's not just about gun sales, but he does, that's the name of the article. I found that also on ProQuest. It was a very good article, very extensive. Obviously, most of the topic I disagreed with, but I thought that made it perfect to do a rebuttal against. And then the last source was opponents say gun control measures hit the wrong target. It's from the York Daily Record. I also found that on ProQuest Central. I'd say it was an average source. I basically just used it for a quote, and they were interviewing a sporting goods store owner who obviously sells handguns and assault rifles, and he said the government always wants to work against innocent people. They go after people who don't break the law, and I think that's important because sometimes we're taking guns out of the hands that actually can use them for good if need be. So I'm going to go head into my image. That's as big as I can get it, but so it's pretty self-explanatory. I'd say 1911, 45 caliber. It's been around since 1911. My favorite gun. I own a couple of them. But the importance of the picture is what's underneath it. It's the Constitution, we the people, and under that is the Second Amendment is one of the, obviously the Second Amendment to the Constitution, and it gives us as Americans the right to bear arms. Obviously, we need to do that in a responsible manner. But just to highlight a few things from the photo. So the type of photo, it's a conceptual, it's portraying a concept, and it symbolizes the idea that the Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms. As far as the distance from the subject, it's kind of a close-up. It's real looking. And then for the third, the use of color is bright and has a lifelike feel. And I just thought it was a cool photo. With the Constitution and the gun. And one more thing, I noticed the gun's off, the safety's off. You can see the red in it, so I don't know if that's supposed to mean anything, that if you come and take it, that we're ready to come at you, but but I like the photo, and thank you guys very much.
Okay.